In a small, quiet town, there was a big, creepy house called Thornhill Estate. The house was very strange, and people believed that anyone who moved in would lose all the things that made them special and happy. The man who owned the house, Chike, was mysterious. He wasn't just a landlord, he also took away the dreams and talents of anyone who lived there. One day, 3 new people moved into the house, each with their own hopes and dreams. Amina, a piano player, wanted to become the best musician she could be. Kwame, a young man working on a big idea for a phone app, was full of energy and big plans. And Zola, a reporter, came to find out why people said the house was haunted and why people who lived there often seemed sad and empty when they left. Right away, all 3 noticed that the house felt strange. Time felt slow, strange noises echoed in the halls, and they felt tired every morning, even though they'd gone to bed early. Little by little, each of them started to lose what made them feel special. Amina's hands began to shake, so she couldn't play the piano like she used to. Kwame, usually so excited about his work, began to feel lazy and unsure. And Zola, who was usually very curious and liked writing things down, found her notes missing, as though the house didn't want her to know its secrets. They didn't know what to do, but they started talking to each other and realized they were all feeling the same way. One night, they decided to explore the house and see if they could find any answers. They went down to the basement and found a secret door that led to a hidden room filled with broken items, an old, broken piano, blank papers, trophies with no names on them. It looked like each item belonged to people who had lived in the house before them. At the center of the room, they found glass bottles with glowing lights inside. Each bottle had a name on it and held the dreams or special talents of people who once lived in the house. They even found bottles with their own names. They were shocked to see that the bottles were losing their glow, just like they were losing their talents. The 3 friends decided to talk to Chike, the landlord, to find out why he was taking away their dreams. Chike told them that his family was cursed a long time ago. Because of the curse, he could never be happy or find joy in anything, so he had to take the dreams and happiness of others to survive. He thought this was the only way he could feel a fool again. The friends decided they wanted their talents and dreams back, so they made a plan to break the curse and destroy the glowing bottles. But the house didn't want to let them go, and it started to lock doors and change hallways, trying to keep them trapped. Shadows danced along the walls, and they could hear whispers, as if the house itself was trying to scare them. Even though they were scared, they kept going. They remembered their happiest moments, like when Amina played piano for the first time, or when Kwame had his first big idea, or when Zola wrote her first story. They held on to these memories to give them strength. Together, they broke the glowing bottles, freeing the dreams and talents inside. When they broke the bottles, the house started to shake, and the glowing lights flew all around the room, becoming brighter and brighter. Chike grew weak, losing his power. The house began to collapse, so Amina, Kwame, and Zola ran outside just as the building came crashing down. They could hear Chike's cries as the house burned, finally breaking the curse. When the 3 friends made it out, they were happy to be free, but they felt changed. Amina found it hard to play the piano as beautifully as before. Kwame didn't feel as excited about his ideas. Zola felt a little empty, like the house had taken a piece of her. Even though they were safe, they would never forget the house and what it had done to them. And in the town, people still whispered about the house that had fed on dreams and talents, saying that sometimes you could still hear faint music or see shadows where Thornhill Estate once stood. The 3 friends stayed close, forever connected by the strange, haunted house that had almost stolen their dreams forever. But even though Amina, Kwame, and Zola had left the haunted house behind, the strange feeling of the place didn't leave them. Amina tried to play the piano again, but something was missing. The music didn't sound as magical as before. She sat by her piano, pressing the keys over and over, but it was like her fingers had forgotten the joy of playing. She started to cry, feeling like the house had stolen a piece of her heart. One night, as she struggled to play a song, she heard soft music coming from the distance. It sounded just like the tune she used to play, but it was faint, like a whisper from the past. Amina ran to her window, trying to find the source of the music, but there was nothing there. Kwame wasn't doing any better. He tried working on his app, but ideas came slowly, and he felt tired all the time. One evening, he sat in front of his computer, staring at the screen with no idea what to do next. He felt a cold chill in the room, and his computer screen started flickering. Suddenly, a message appeared on his screen, "I'm still here." Kwame froze, his heart pounding. He knew the message had to be from Chike or the spirits of the house. He tried to shake it off, but every time he closed his eyes, he saw the house's dark rooms and felt the weight of the curse pressing down on him. Zola tried to go back to her job as a journalist, but she couldn't shake the feeling that the story of Thornhill Estate wasn't over. She had nightmares of the burning house and the faces of lost souls begging for help. During one of her interviews, she suddenly lost her train of thought and felt dizzy, as if someone was whispering in her ear. She kept hearing, "You haven't saved us all." Determined to understand what was happening, Zola returned to the site of the burned-down estate one evening. At the site, all that was left were ashes and rubble, but Zola felt a strange pull, as if something was calling her deeper into the ruins. As she walked over the charred ground, she saw a small, unbroken bottle lying in the dirt. It was one of the glowing vials they had tried to destroy. It wasn't bright, but there was a faint glimmer inside. Zola picked it up, feeling a shiver run down her spine. The bottle had a name scratched on it, but the name was smudged, as if the person it belonged to wasn't fully gone. Meanwhile, back at her home, Amina heard soft piano notes in her dreams. It was always the same melody, and each time she woke up, she felt a cold breeze in her room. One night, the piano in her living room started playing by itself, playing the exact song she couldn't remember. It wasn't scary, but sad, like the piano was crying. Amina felt a sudden urge to return to Thornhill, as if something inside the house needed her. Kwame also began seeing strange messages appear on his devices, each one telling him to come back. He saw blurry photos of Thornhill flash across his phone screen, and his unfinished app project began to glitch with eerie symbols that looked like the ones he saw in the haunted room. Frustrated and scared, Kwame decided to return to the house's remains, knowing that whatever was calling him was too strong to ignore. The three friends, each feeling the pull of Thornhill, found themselves standing in front of the ruins on the same night. The once grand estate was now just a shell of burnt wood and rubble, but there was a strange, glowing mist swirling above the ruins, as if the house was still alive. They were surprised to see each other, but they understood why they had come back. They felt that Thornhill wasn't done with them. Zola showed them the bottle she had found. It was glowing a little brighter now, as if responding to their presence. "I think we missed something," she said quietly. "I think someone is still trapped here, and they need our help." Amina and Kwame nodded, feeling the same strange pull. But this time, they weren't just scared, they were ready. They remembered the spirits they had seen in the glory room, the ones who had tried to help them escape. Perhaps one of those souls had never fully left. As they stepped closer to the ruins, the ground beneath them began to rumble softly. Shadows danced around them, and faint whispers filled the air. The spirits of the house were restless, still searching for freedom. Amina, Kwame, and Zola knew that they had to dig deeper, not just into the ruins, but into the story of Thornhill's past. They needed to find out who had started the curse and how to end it for good. But the house was more dangerous now, even in its broken state. It had seen them before, it knew their fears, and it still wanted their dreams. The question was, Would they be strong enough this time to face the dark heart of Thornhill Estate, and could they finally set all the lost souls free? As Amina, Kwame, and Zola stood among the ruins of Thornhill, a cold wind swept through the air, carrying faint, sorrowful cries. It was as if the very ground beneath them was alive, still carrying the weight of countless lost souls. The faint mist above the ruins began to swirl faster, glowing with a strange, eerie light, beckoning them to enter the heart of what remained. Zola held up the glowing vial she had found, her hand trembling. The mist seemed to respond, growing brighter. "Someone is still trapped," she whispered. "We have to find out who it is and why they couldn't escape with the others." Amina, feeling the coldness settle deep in her bones, nodded. "I think it's the spirit of someone who was too important to the curse, maybe even the person who started it all." Kwame shivered. "If that's true, this might be the one spirit that can't be set free so easily. What if we make it angry? What if it tries to keep us here, forever?" Despite their fears, the three friends knew they couldn't live again, not until they understood the truth. Clutching flashlights, they began picking their way through the charred remains of Thornhill. The air was thick with the smell of burned wood, and every step felt heavy, as if the ruins were trying to hold them back. Suddenly, Zola stumbled upon something half buried in the dirt. It was a small, rusted metal box, covered in ash. She quickly cleared it off and opened it, revealing old, yellowed letters inside. The handwriting was messy but urgent, as if written in a hurry. As they read through the letters, a dark and tragic story unfolded. The letters were from Adisa, the original owner of Thornhill and Chike's ancestor. Adisa had been a powerful woman, known for her remarkable talents and success. But she had fallen victim to deep envy from the people around her. The last letter, smudged with tears, described a deal she made in desperation, a dark pact to protect her legacy and talent from being stolen by others. However, the pact backfired, cursing not only Adisa but all her descendants to forever feed on the dreams of others. Kwame's voice trembled. "So it wasn't Chike who started this, it was Adisa. But why is her spirit still here?" Amina looked around, suddenly feeling a strange presence. Maybe she never wanted to curse her family, maybe she was forced into it. What if she's the one still trapped here, desperate to end the curse she began? Just as Amina finished speaking, a cold wind blew through the ruins, sending chills down their spines. The mist above them started to condense, forming a shadowy figure. It was Adisa. Her face was both beautiful and haunting, filled with regret and pain. She spoke slowly, her voice echoing like distant thunder. "You are here for a reason," Adisa said, her eyes glowing with an unearthly light. "You have seen what this curse has done, not only to me, but to all those who came after. It is a curse of broken dreams, one that I never meant to unleash. But to end it, you must make a choice that requires great sacrifice." Amina, Kwame, and Zola exchanged fearful glances. "What sacrifice?" Zola asked, her voice barely a whisper. Adisa's eyes darkened. "You must each give up the one dream you hold most dear. Only then can the curse be broken for all, and my soul finally set free." The friends were stunned. Give up their dreams? The very things they had fought so hard to reclaim. Amina's heart pounded. Her music had always been her life, the one thing that gave her joy. Could she really let it go forever? Kwame, who had always been driven by his ambition, wondered if he could live without the excitement of creating something new. And Zola, who had devoted her life to uncovering the truth, struggled to imagine a future where her words didn't matter. "I don't know if I can do this," Amina said, tears welling up in her eyes. "Music is all I have." Kwame clenched his fist. "This is what I was afraid of. Thornhill always takes more than it gives back." Zola's voice was shaky but determined. "But if we don't do it, the curse will just keep going. More people will lose themselves here, just like we almost did. Adissa's spirit floated closer, her face now full of both hope and despair. The choice is yours. But remember, sometimes the greatest freedom comes from letting go. The friends were torn, unsure of what to do. The ruins seemed to close in around them, the darkness growing heavier. Time was running out, and they knew that whatever decision they made, it would change their lives forever. Amina closed her eyes, trying to imagine a world without music. Kwame felt his heart sink at the thought of never creating again. And Zola wondered if she could bear to live without uncovering stories. The weight of the sacrifice loomed large, but so did the cries of the lost souls still trapped within Thornhill. But just as they were about to decide, a new sound pierced the darkness. It was faint, almost like a whisper, but it was unmistakable, the sound of children's laughter. It was innocent, full of joy, and coming from somewhere deep within the ruins. The friends froze, unsure of what to make of it. The laughter felt pure, untouched by the darkness of the house. It reminded them of the simple joys they once had, before Thornhill had tainted their dreams. And then Adissa's voice softened, her ghostly form flickering. The laughter, it is the sound of hope. The curse can be broken without your sacrifice, but it requires something even harder, forgiveness. You must forgive the one who began this darkness. Kwame's eyes widened. Forgive you? Yes, Adissa said, her voice breaking. Forgive me, for everything I caused. Only then will the souls be freed, and only then can your glories truly return. The friends felt a surge of emotion, a strange mix of anger and compassion. Could they really forgive the spirit who had started all of this? Could they let go of their pain to finally bring peace to Thornhill? They stood there, hearts heavy, knowing that this new path might be their last chance. But deep down, they also knew that forgiveness might not be as simple as it sounded. The darkness around them still lingered, and the ruins seemed to wait, as if testing whether their hearts could truly hold the power to end the curse once and for all. Amina, Kwame, and Zola stood in stunned silence. The sound of the children's laughter still echoed around them, faint but persistent, like a reminder of the innocence lost to Thornhill's darkness. Adissa's spirit remained, hovering above the ruins, her ghostly eyes filled with a strange mix of regret and hope. Forgiveness. It sounded simple, but it felt like the hardest task of all. Amina, the tears still wet on her cheeks, took a step forward. I want to forgive, she said, her voice trembling. But how can I forgive something that took everything from me? You stole my music, my joy, you stole me. Her voice broke, and she clutched her chest, the pain still raw. I don't know how to let that go. Kwame clenched his jaw, his fist still tight. You want us to forgive the one who caused all this suffering? The one who made us question who we are? He shook his head, the bitterness clear in his eyes. It feels like we're just letting you off the hook, Adissa. How do we know this isn't just another trick? Zola, ever the journalist, approached Adissa cautiously. I need to know something, she said firmly. Why did you do it? What drove you to make such a deal? Was it worth all the pain, all the lives ruined? Adissa's form flickered, as if the question itself caused her pain. No, she finally whispered. It was never worth it. I was once like you, full of dreams, hope, and ambition. But envy crept in, and fear took hold. I was afraid of losing everything I worked for. So, when the chance came to make a dark pact, I took it, thinking it was the only way to protect my legacy. Her voice grew softer, filled with deep sorrow. But the deal wasn't what it seemed. It twisted me, made me a prisoner of my own greed. I became trapped here, bound to a curse I never meant to create. The curse fed off my fear, and it grew stronger with each tenant it claimed. She paused, her voice cracking. I was wrong, and I have suffered for it. But the curse cannot end until someone is willing to forgive, not just me, but the darkness that lives in all of us. The weight of her words sank heavily on the three friends. Forgiving Adisa wasn't just about ending the curse, it was about confronting the darkness within themselves, the parts that had been hurt, broken, and bitter from the experiences at Thornhill. Amina closed her eyes, taking a deep breath. If I forgive you, does that mean I get my music back? Will I still be able to play? Adisa's gaze softened. Forgiveness does not guarantee the return of what was lost, but it opens the way for new possibilities. It will give you a chance to find your music again, maybe in a different form. It will not be the same, but it could be even more beautiful. Kwame let out a heavy sigh. So, we forgive, and hope that somehow, we'll find our way back to who we were. It sounds too easy, and too hard. It is both, Adisa said quietly. Forgiveness is the beginning, not the end. It's the seed of something new, a chance to grow beyond the curse, beyond the pain. Zola stepped forward, her face set with determination. I've spent my whole life searching for the truth, exposing lies and secrets. But maybe it's time to find something more human. Her voice was steadier now. I don't know if I can fully forgive you right now, but I'm willing to try. Not just for you, but for myself. Adisa nodded, her eyes shimmering with a faint glow. That is all I ask, a willingness to try. Suddenly, the ground began to tremble beneath them, and the mist swirled faster, as if responding to the shift in energy. The ruins seemed to breathe, and the air grew thick with anticipation. It was as if the very fabric of Thornhill was waiting, hanging on their every word. Amina stepped closer to Adisa's spirit. Her heart was heavy, but there was a tiny spark of understanding. You were once a musician too, weren't you? She asked, her voice soft. I can feel it. I can hear it in your voice. Adisa's face lit up, a small, sad smile breaking through her ghostly expression. Yes, I was. Music was my first love. It was my greatest joy and, later, my greatest regret. Amina's heart ached, not just for herself but for Adisa too. Slowly, she reached out, her hand trembling. I will try to forgive you, Adisa, she said, her voice breaking. For the music we both lost. Kwame, though still conflicted, felt something shift inside him. He remembered why he had started his tech projects in the first place, not for glory, but to create something meaningful, something that would make the world a little better. I'll try too, he said gruffly, his voice rough with emotion. But only because I want a chance to be whole again. Zola, feeling the weight of history and humanity in her chest, took a deep breath. I will try, she said, her voice strong. For all of us, for the past, for the future, and for the truth. As the three friends spoke their words of tentative forgiveness, the mist around Adisa began to change. It grew brighter, swirling into a soft, golden glow. Adisa's form became more solid, her features clearer. She looked at them with a mix of gratitude and deep sorrow. Thank you, she whispered. Your willingness to forgive has begun to break the chains that bind this place. But just as her form began to dissolve, a deep, rumbling growl echoed through the ruins. The ground shook violently, and the air turned cold again. Dark shadows rose up from the broken walls, twisting into monstrous shapes. The curse was not ready to let go so easily, it was fighting back, desperate to cling to its power. The three friends felt a surge of fear. The shadows were coming toward them, fast and menacing, as if trying to pull them back into the darkness. Amina, Kwame, and Zola held hands, forming a circle of defiance. Adisa's voice called out, faint but urgent. The curse is strong, but so are you. Do not let go of your forgiveness, no matter what happens. It is your only chance. The shadows closed in, dark and terrifying, but the friends stood firm. They had begun the journey of forgiveness, but the battle was far from over. Thornhill's darkness was not yet defeated, it had one last, desperate trick to play. The ruins seemed to pose with a dark energy, as if preparing for one final confrontation. Would forgiveness be enough to end the curse? Or would Thornhill's darkness consume them once more? The answer was still uncertain, and the night was far from over. The darkness pressed in, the shadows becoming thicker and more tangible, almost like living creatures clawing toward Amina, Kwame, and Zola. The ground beneath them cracked open, releasing a foul, acrid stench that seemed to be the essence of Thornhill's corruption. The air grew colder, and the friends could feel the evil of the house trying to crush their resolve, like a beast unwilling to surrender its prey. Adisa's spirit flickered as the shadows surged, her form growing dim. "Do not lose faith," she cried out. "Forgiveness is the key, but the darkness will test you, it will try to break you one last time." As the shadows swirled faster, forming a dark vortex, they started to whisper in 1,000 different voices, all overlapping and echoing, "You can't escape. You don't belong. You will never be whole again." Amina felt a strange heaviness in her chest. It was as if the shadows were pressing down on her heart, trying to extinguish her last bit of hope. Her vision blurred, and she suddenly saw herself in an old, dusty concert hall, playing a piano with broken keys. The audience was filled with shadowy figures, all faceless, watching her with silent, empty eyes. Tears filled her own eyes as the music she tried to play came out as broken, discordant notes. Kwame's mind filled with images of his failed projects, each one falling apart at the moment of success. He saw himself surrounded by blank screens, his fingers numb and unresponsive. The shadows mocked him, whispering that his ideas were worthless, that he was never meant to create anything meaningful. He felt a deep emptiness in his chest, a void that seemed impossible to fill. Zola, too, was overwhelmed by the visions. She saw pages of her stories burning before her eyes, the words erased by invisible hands. She was trapped in a dark room filled with stacks of blank paper, her pen unable to write even a single word. The voices of the shadows taunted her, saying she had failed to tell the truth, that she would be forgotten just like all the lost souls of Thornhill. The darkness grew stronger, feeding on their deepest fears. The friends began to falter, each of them feeling the weight of their unresolved pain. The shadows seemed to sense their weakness, closing in even tighter, wrapping around their bodies like cold, slimy tendrils. But then, something unexpected happened. Despite the darkness, the friends felt a faint warmth, a warmth that started in their chests and spread slowly through their limbs. It wasn't the warmth of victory, but of resilience, a quiet reminder of the moments that had once brought them joy. The laughter of children echoed faintly in their minds, cutting through the sinister whispers. Amina's fingers twitched, as if remembering a long-forgotten song. The broken keys in her vision began to mend, and she heard the faint notes of a familiar lullaby, one that her grandmother used to sing to her as a child. The music grew louder, clearer, and the faceless audience started to dissolve into mist. Kwame's numb fingers began to move again, tapping into a rhythm he hadn't felt in years. He saw flashes of his earliest creation, a simple device he had built as a child to help his grandmother turn off the lights without getting up. It was a small, meaningful memory, filled with love and purpose. Zola's hand steadied, and her pen moved on its own, writing words that came from deep within her soul. She remembered the first story she ever told, a simple tale of courage she wrote as a child to comfort her little brother after he had a nightmare. The words flowed easily, like a river finally freed from its dam. The friends realized something powerful: the darkness could not take away the memories of why they loved what they did in the first place. The love, the joy, and the simple beginnings were still there, deep inside. The curse could drain their talents and twist their dreams, but it could not erase the core of who they were. As this realization took hold, the darkness around them began to waver, its form less solid, its whispers growing fainter. The warmth in their chest grew stronger, radiating outward like a shield of light. Adisa's spirit, once faint and flickering, grew brighter. She looked at them with a mixture of awe and gratitude. "You have found the truth," she said, her voice clear. "The darkness was not just in this house, it was also within you, fed by your own fears and doubts. But now you see that your love, your passion, is stronger than any curse." The shadows let out a final, angry roar, but it was weaker, as if losing its grip. The vortex began to collapse, the tendrils retreating. The air lightened, and the suffocating cold started to lift. The friends, still holding hands, felt a surge of energy, pure, bright, and filled with the strength of their forgiveness. But just as they thought the battle was over, the ground beneath them trembled violently. Thornhill itself seemed to be making one last desperate attempt to hold on to its power. The rubble shifted. And from the deepest part of the ruins, a dark, monstrous shape began to rise. It was huge, made of shadows and broken dreams, a manifestation of the curse itself. The friends knew they were facing the heart of the darkness, the true source of the evil that had plagued Thornhill for generations. It was massive, towering above them, its eyes glowing red with rage and desperation. It roared, the sound shaking the very air, a howl of pure defiance against the light of forgiveness. Amina, Kwame, and Zola felt the familiar fear creeping back, but they also felt something else, a determination stronger than before. They had faced their deepest fears, embraced their love for their dreams, and chosen to forgive. Now, they were ready to confront the darkness head-on. The monstrous shadow lunged at them, its tendrils thrashing wildly. The friends braced themselves, their hands still linked, their bond unbroken. Amina began to hum the lullaby that had brought her comfort, her voice steady and clear. Kwame closed his eyes, envisioning his childhood creation, the pure joy of helping someone he loved. Zola gripped her pen tightly, feeling the power of her words flow through her. Their combined strength created a bright, blinding light, a burst of energy fueled by love, resilience, and forgiveness. The light surged forward, colliding with the monstrous shadow. The darkness howled in agony, its form unraveling as the light burned through it. The friends held on, pushing forward with everything they had. The darkness fought back fiercely, but it was weakening, its grip slipping. Thornhill's curse, which had thrived on fear and pain for so long, was finally breaking under the power of forgiveness and love. But just as the light seemed to be winning, the darkness gathered all its remaining strength for one final, desperate attack. It lashed out violently, trying to break their bond, trying to make them falter. The friends stood firm, their hearts filled with both fear and courage, knowing that the battle was far from over. The monstrous darkness lunged one last time, desperate and filled with raw rage. It was as if every soul lost to Thornhill's curse had merged into this one dark, grotesque form, clawing to maintain its hold on the world. The air vibrated with a deafening roar, a cry of anger and despair. But Amina, Kwame, and Zola stood their ground, still holding hands, their bond now stronger than any fear. They felt the light inside them growing, fueled by their love for each other and their willingness to forgive, not only Adisa but themselves as well. The warmth spread through their bodies like fire, powerful and unstoppable. Amina's voice rose above the noise, her hum transforming into a beautiful, pure melody that filled the air. It was the lullaby her grandmother had sung to her as a child, but now it carried new meaning, a song of hope, of rebirth, and of courage. Her voice was steady, unwavering, and it cut through the darkness like a sword. Kwame, drawing strength from Amina's music, reached into the deepest parts of his memory. He envisioned every creation he'd ever made, each one a small act of love and kindness. His hands moved as if building something new, something filled with the warmth of his truest intentions. The energy flowed through him, adding to the light. Zola's words came to life in her mind, each one a story of resilience and truth. She spoke aloud, her voice firm and clear. "You will not control us anymore. We are more than our fears, more than our doubts. Her words, filled with passion and honesty, joined the music and the energy, creating a barrier of pure light around them. The monstrous form faltered, its shadowy tendrils recoiling in pain. The light from the three friends grew brighter and brighter, becoming blinding in its intensity. It was a light made of forgiveness, love, and the resilience of the human spirit, everything that Thornhill's darkness could not withstand. The shadows shrieked, writhing and collapsing as the light consumed them. The monstrous figure started to dissolve, its form breaking apart into fragments of darkness. The last remnant of the curse let out a terrible, soul-wrenching cry, but it was too late. The light was too strong, too pure. The darkness shattered like glass, bursting into 1,000 tiny pieces that faded into the night. Thornhill's curse was finally broken, its power destroyed by the very things it had sought to extinguish. The ground beneath them stopped shaking, and the air became still and quiet. The ruins of Thornhill began to shift again, but this time not in anger, in release. The spirits of those lost to the curse appeared one by one, their forms no longer twisted but peaceful, their faces filled with gratitude. Adissa's spirit, now brighter than ever, stepped forward, her eyes shining with tears of relief. "You have done what I could not," she said softly. "You broke the curse not with fear or anger, but with forgiveness. I am truly free now, and so are all those who were lost here." Amina, Kwame, and Zola felt a deep sense of peace settle over them. They were exhausted, but it was a good exhaustion, the kind that comes after a long, hard battle won not just for themselves, but for others as well. Adissa's spirit began to fade, her form dissolving into the soft, golden mist. But before she disappeared completely, she smiled at them, a smile filled with gratitude and a deep, abiding love. "Thank you," she whispered. "May your dreams grow stronger than ever, now that they are truly your own." The friends watched as the last of the spirits faded into the night, leaving only a sense of quiet peace. The ruins of Thornhill were still there, but they no longer felt haunted. The heavy, oppressive feeling was gone, replaced by a calm stillness, as if the land itself was finally able to rest. Amina, Kwame, and Zola stood in the clearing, the stars shining brightly above them. They looked at one another, a deep bond formed between them that would never be broken. Amina spoke first, her voice soft but full of hope. "I think I can play again. Not the same way as before, but in a new way. A way that's more me." Kwame nodded, a small smile on his face. "I still want to create. I know it won't be easy, but I'm ready to start again, from the heart." Zola looked at the remains of the estate and then back at her friends. "There are still so many stories to tell," she said. "And I want to tell them honestly, without fear." The three of them turned away from the ruins, ready to leave Thornhill behind once and for all. As they walked back toward the town, they felt lighter, as if a great weight had been lifted from their shoulders. But just before they reached the edge of the clearing, they heard a soft, familiar sound, the laughter of children, clear and joyful. It was the sound of innocence regained, of hope restored. And as they stepped forward into the light of a new dawn, they knew that while Thornhill's darkness was gone, the lessons it had taught them would stay with them forever. Not as a burden, but as a reminder of the strength that comes from facing one's fears, forgiving the past, and reclaiming one's dreams. The story of Thornhill had finally come to an end, but Amina, Kwame, and Zola's stories were just beginning. And this time, they would be written not in darkness, but in the bright, unbreakable light of their own resilience and love. They walked on, hand in hand, into a new day filled with endless possibilities. As dawn broke over the ruins of Thornhill, Amina, Kwame, and Zola felt a new sense of peace. The oppressive weight of the estate's darkness was gone, and the air was crisp, filled with the promise of a new beginning. But deep down, they each knew that something was still lingering, a residue of the curse, a heaviness within their souls that hadn't fully lifted. Exhausted and unsure of what to do next, they agreed on one thing: they needed help, real and lasting help, from a power greater than the curse they had battled. Amina suggested they visit St. Michael's Church, a small but vibrant church in the town that was known for its deliverance services. The pastor, Reverend Sephew, was respected for his deep faith and his commitment to freeing those oppressed by dark forces. The friends arrived at the church later that morning. The building was simple but filled with warmth, with rays of sunlight streaming through stained glass windows that depicted stories of hope and redemption. Reverend Sephew, a kind-faced man with a gentle authority, welcomed them with open arms, sensing their weariness and the spiritual weight they carried. "What has brought you here, my children?" he asked softly, his eyes full of compassion. Amina, her voice breaking, told him everything: the curse of Thornhill, the spirits trapped within, the dark battle they had faced, and the forgiveness that had begun to break the chains. "But," she added quietly, "we still feel not completely free. Like the darkness left something behind in us." Reverend Sephew nodded solemnly. "Evil doesn't let go easily. It leaves marks, wounds that need to be healed completely. But you have taken the most important step, choosing to forgive. Now, it is time for total deliverance and healing." He led them to the front of the church, where a few other church members were already gathered, sensing the need for powerful prayer. The atmosphere became charged with anticipation as Reverend Sephew instructed the congregation to pray fervently. The three friends knelt before the altar, and Reverend Sephew anointed them with oil, placing his hands on their heads one by one. "In the name of Jesus, the name above all names, we break every remaining hold of darkness," he declared, his voice filled with authority. "Every spirit of fear, confusion, and pain, leave now, in Jesus' name." As he prayed, the air in the church seemed to shift. A strong, holy presence filled the room, and the friends felt a warmth like never before, a warmth that was pure, overwhelming, and full of light. Amina, Kwame, and Zola began to weep uncontrollably, each tear releasing the deep pain and fear they had carried from Thornhill. The congregation prayed with passion, their voices rising in unison: "Be set free. Be set free in the mighty name of Jesus." Amina felt a sudden release in her chest, as if an invisible chain had snapped. She felt light, like her soul was filled with music once again. "Thank you, Jesus," she whispered through her tears. "Thank you for giving me back my joy." Kwame's body shook as he felt something heavy lift off his shoulders, a burden he hadn't even realized he was still carrying. "I'm free," he said aloud, a smile breaking across his face for the first time in months. "I'm truly free." Zola felt a warmth in her heart that she hadn't felt since childhood. Her hands stopped shaking, her mind felt clear, and a deep peace washed over her soul. "Thank you, Lord," she said, her voice steady and full of gratitude. "I'm ready to tell stories of hope, not fear." Reverend Sephew continued to pray over them, commanding every trace of the darkness to leave and never return. "These children of God belong to the light," he proclaimed. "No power of darkness shall claim them again." The final prayers were said, and the church members embraced Amina, Kwame, and Zola with love and joy. There was a sense of true victory in the air, a deliverance that was complete, a cleansing that left no room for darkness. The three friends rose from their knees, feeling lighter than ever before. As they stepped out of St. Michael's Church, they felt like new people. The sun shone brightly, the sky was clear, and there was a peaceful stillness all around. They looked at each other with smiles that were wide and genuine, finally free of Thornhill's curse, not just in their minds, but in their spirits. Amina felt the urge to sing, not just in her mind, but aloud. She lifted her voice in a hymn she had learned as a child, her voice filled with a joy that was unmistakable. Kwame joined in, clapping his hands, his laughter echoing in the crisp morning air. Zola pulled out her notepad and began to write again, the words flowing easily, each one filled with hope. The three friends knew they would always remember Thornhill, but not with fear or bitterness. It was now a story of victory, of overcoming the darkness through faith and love. They walked away from the church, truly delivered, and ready to embrace the future with open hearts. They were free, in every sense of the word. And this time, it was a freedom that no darkness could ever take away.